with the advent of COVID and this new work from home work style, we see A4 devices also becoming more pervasive in the hybrid working at home environment. In our research, there are a good portion of home users that have to, even choose their own technology, and the company reimburses them for it. What technologies would benefit home users, and how is Adobe supporting the vendors' offerings for those types of printers?
Yeah, there's a number of changes that we're seeing there, Randy. Home users tend to be very price conscious. Increasingly, they're quality conscious as well. And making sure that the quality of output and the consistency of output, has really been a key thing. There's a couple of things that we have done there. One of which is, the Adobe Embedded Print Engine is a relatively new departure for Adobe, less than 5 years old. But it's been designed as a new technology. It's our first new printing technology in about 15 years. But it's really designed to take advantage of this embedded print controller. Rather than just the Adobe printing technology being the domain of the big enterprise solution or the big commercial printing press, what's key about the embedded print engine is in that name, embedded, and it's really down in the details as far as the consumer is concerned. For them, surely the important thing is the Adobe bit, but the key thing about, and why we put embedded actually in the product name, it's been designed to fit on the very modern technology which is powering at the heart of these things. You may have heard of embedded technologies and processors like ARM. The ARM processor is well known now, powers a lot of our mobile devices. Increasingly, printer manufacturers are putting it inside their printers as well. But the technologies that we have been designed specifically to run on these low power, low memory, increasingly very performant and very capable systems, but it requires a re-architecting. So that's probably the number one thing that we've done, and so our vendor partners are able to leverage that and put our technology in a smaller printer where normally they may not have been able to do so.
Interesting.
There's another technology as well, which I think is emerging, which is beginning to be relevant, maybe more in the future, and that's the whole IoT connection to the cloud thing, where the technology is emerging so that you can have a very light footprint, we would call it, but basically a very depowered printer, and have all the heavy work happening in the cloud. And that's not appropriate for every single situation. There are many situations where that won't work for folks, but in a situation where, particularly, for an IT department who wants to deploy the same consistent technology to a large fleet of their users, some of whom they won't be able to walk up to and just and visit because they're scattered at homes up and down the land. The idea of centralizing some of this stuff and doing some of the printing technology in the cloud and distributing that data down to the printers wherever they might be, that might well be appropriate as well. And so this combination of technologies, the idea that we can embed all this goodness into a relatively small footprint on a device, but have the flexibility. So if the partner requires, they could run it in a cloud and in a more of a shared environment. We've got all these different technologies available.
Interesting. Yeah, I can also imagine that the print stream itself is smaller too, because again, with people actually printing and potentially sending things, to other locations, you don't want to be taking up a lot of bandwidth, and the speed and in that architecture should be streamlined in a way that, we're not clogging up the internet at the same time too. We're not taking hours to, to print things or send things, to other locations and things like that.
Yeah. It's certainly a key thing. And of course, working at home, I've spoken to lots of people who, have to kick their kids off YouTube or their favorite streaming service because they're trying to be on a Zoom call now. And to some extent, you don't want printing gumming up the works in the same way. I think the good news there is, although that there's a lot of data to be thrown around when you're printing things across the cloud, and 10 years ago we would have been aghast with our dial-up modems of sending this data across our dial-up modems. In the world of streaming video, actually we're not talking something, particularly for the sort of thing you might want to print.
True.
In comparison to you know, sitting on the couch watching streaming and the kids down the hall watching something different, maybe it's not the problem that we thought it was 10, 15 years ago. And that's another good thing about the rest of the world gaining in infrastructure. It means a lot of the technologies that we've had in labs for some time now actually become practical and ready to deploy in this type of environment as well.